This week's episode is brought to you by Adorama Picks. From photo books to prints on paper, metal, or canvas, Adorama Picks can help you to preserve and display your most precious memories. And by viewers like you. Visit photorec.tv/support to learn how you can support this show and join our community of photographers. Welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. This is episode 90. Welcome back, everybody. This is that weekly photo show where I talk about all things photography. I think the first thing, though, that we need to address is the fact that I'm now sitting here by myself. So I'll take just a minute. I never know how, I can never figure out how personal to get in general with you all and the general public, but we've made part of our lives public and part of our relationship public as we did this show. Well, sadly, that has ended. And this didn't just happen. We both wanted to work together because we value each other as human beings, and we value what I've built here and what Christina has helped me, and I'm super appreciative for everything that she's done for the channel. But because this wasn't my decision to end the relationship, I found it very difficult to continue to work together and feel happy. So we're no longer working together. And it's sad. And the amount of support I have received from the photo group and other friends and family has been fantastic. Life goes on. This channel goes on. I'm not worried about the channel or any of that kind of related stuff. But I did want to tell you that so that you don't have to wonder forever what exactly happened. Did the cats eat her? Did she get lost on her way home? No, none of that happened. I do feel like telling people personal things like this also kind of opens up the opportunity for you all to, put boneheaded comments down below. I'm sorry I go right there, but it is the internet that I'm talking to. And you don't need to for this. You don't need to say anything at all, like you thought it would end this way, or that you saw how she looked at me when I said the GH4 was the future of photography and you knew it was over, something like that. Just check yourself and let's move on. So this show is going to continue on as is for now. We're going to bring in some guest hosts from time to time, but because of changes in my life, there's going to be a bit more travel with the McKays in the near future, and so the show won't actually happen as often and regular down the road a little bit. But for now, I love bringing you this content. I started bringing you this all by myself. And let's get right into tonight's show, which we have a lot to talk about. We've got a petition to Instagram to not go algorithmic. Keep it chronological. Do we think they'll respond? I've got a poll up in the corner that should pop up at some point during the show, and you can answer. We're going to talk about the 80D. I always want to say D80, but the Canon 80D. Nice report from DP Review shows good or better dynamic range than the 70D. Do we have a newly designed sensor that is finally better? And what does that mean really in real world testing? Or I should say just in real world use. And we'll be talking about some fantastic winners from the Smithsonian contest, your free lens Instagram challenges, and lots more in this show. And don't forget, we answer your photo questions. Me answers your photo questions live at the end of the show. So if you have questions you'd like to be answered, put them in the chat and Roy will be collecting those for me to answer at the end. All right, so first up in this show, we get into our gear on the table. Now I got a couple different things to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about actually is a deal right now. I can't show you the GH4 because we've gone back to filming with that camera for this show. I love it. Nothing really against the Sony for filming, but the GH4 in this situation just works nicer. We also use the GH4 for 98% of our stuff that we filmed on the New Zealand trip, and just found it to work really, really well. Today at B&H, and I don't know how long this is going to last for, the Panasonic 12-35 f2.8 is on sale for under $700. That's cheaper than the used prices were just a couple of days ago. That is a fantastic price. I had borrowed mine from Lens Rental, borrowed from Lumoid, And with this price, I've gone ahead and bought it because the 12 to 35 f2.8 on the GH4 is a fantastic combination for kind of run and gun. It's a stabilized lens. It allows you to get beautiful 4K footage. It is extremely versatile focal length. Kind of works out to be the 24 to 70 with a crop factor, or basically it does when you're shooting. So I wanted to make sure you are aware of that. That link will be right down below in all of the show notes. So that's the first bit of gear on the table. The second thing is I went and interviewed a big Instagrammer this weekend and had a lot of fun with Noah. He's Darth Vader? No, Vader Breath on Instagram. And we did a lot of kind of like walking and wandering, talking while we were shooting. And again, with the GH4, I've struggled on different ways to get audio in nicely, especially from two people. One person, it's fine, you just hook this straight in. But Saramonic sent me this a couple of weeks ago, and this was my first real test of it, and I'm really happy. Basically, it's a little unpowered mixer that sits up in the hot shoe of the camera, and it allows you to manually control the levels coming in very easily right there, and it's got your left and right inputs and your output, or you could bring in a stereo as well. It's tiny. As I said, it's unpowered, so you don't have to worry about keeping batteries in that. And it's compact. Really, I'm really happy with how that worked. I'll be bringing a full review of that pretty soon. The other thing that I've been using a lot, if you check my Instagram feed, you see that right now my pictures kind of alternate between the drone, which has been a lot of fun. I don't know I have anything else to say about that tonight talking wise, but and long exposure pictures. I have an ND filter, I have a CPL filter, but this Nissi set is super high quality, and I really am happy with it, except for how tight it is to get these in and out. That's a kind of common complaint. But what I like about this over the leaf filter set is, first, it comes in these really nice little rigid boxes. Two, it has built into it a CPL filter. So let me show you. First, this is what gets screwed onto the front of the lens. And also, very nicely, Nissi sends along a bunch of different step-up adapters so that you can put this on pretty much any lens you have. They get the 70, this is the 82, then you got the 77, 72, 67, there might even be a little bit smaller than that. And there's a built-in CPL filter that you can turn. Once this is on, then this just pops onto it. And I'm really starting to see the benefit of being able to shoot some really long exposures when there's still a good bit of sun. I've kind of always poo-pooed that, like just stay out later or get up earlier is what I've said for a long time. But there are times where when you have that light, there's this feel to it that you can't get at different times of the day by just waiting till it's darker and shooting longer exposures. So I'll be bringing a full review of that as well. In this little box is a soft grad filter, so you can slide in. And I'll be talking about this too. What I really would like to do is, there's a new Sony app that is out that you can download directly to the Sony camera that will kind of allow you to do this digitally within the camera by taking multiple exposures at different exposures, one for the sky, one for this. But I'll be using this and comparing it as well too, and I would like to get my hands on a hard graduated filter. Those are the ones that Adam likes over at Photo Nerds, and we'll be talking about that soon. So Nissi filters I've been really impressed with. I like that. I give them a thumbs up, but I'll be bringing you a full review of that as well. The only real downside, as I said, is it's pretty tight to slide in here, and you can stack multiple filters as well. I've got the 10 stop in there right now, which during midday has given me, using the 10 stop, no clouds in the sky, I shot for, I think it was 30 seconds. I was at F11, F14, somewhere around there. I'll tell you what, I also just posted on the photo Facebook, that Sony sensor gets so dirty so quickly. I don't know what to do about it. I use the rocket blower very often, but when I shoot up above F13, things get ugly pretty quickly. And it's frustrating to have to try to fix those and then realize when you look at it big that you kind of goofed up a fix or two and go back. So I don't love time spending that, but I do love the quality output I get from that Sony sensor. I've been shooting a little bit of HDRs lately, and every time I do, and I go and I look at the ability to manipulate a single file from the Sony, the shadows, bringing those up, versus shooting an HDR, almost always I'm like, I'm fine with just the file. There's so much room in that there's so much room in those shadows on the Sony sensors to bring it up that it's just lovely. And we'll revisit this in a second when we talk about the 80D. So I think that is everything that I've got on the table. And that brings us to our first segment, where I want to remind you that this week's episode is brought to you by Adorama Picks. We welcome them back as a sponsor. They are a fantastic place to get your prints printed. Earlier, I think it was last week, somebody posted in the PhotoRec support group a funny clip from a TV show where they've just realized they lost all of their pictures on their computer. And the kids realized at first, the mom runs over and she's like banging on the keys, and they're like, "Mom, you can't bang on the keys. That doesn't work. We already tried it." It's really sad to lose all of your photos. It's also really sad to not lose all your photos, to have them, but the only place to have them is on your computer. And so the prices at Adorama Picks are fantastic. The turnaround time is extremely reasonable, and the quality is lovely. So take some time, find one or two of your favorite photos. They don't need to be epic photos. They just have to be photos that mean something to you, of your kids, of family, and take some time to get them printed and put them on the wall. This is one of the metal prints I've had printed from them. I took this shot of Seattle this spring, I think it was, and I just love the look on metal. And it comes this nice mount, and I've actually just have a little mount on the wall, but it comes with this little block that you can screw right into the wall, and it mounts so nicely on there. It fits so easily, and it looks so sharp. So especially if you want a metal print right now, they're offering a really nice discount code. That is, it's a little silly of a code. Riley will put it down below. PXPRTVMTL25. Translation, you can save 25% off any of their metal prints, and as many as you want. So if you've been holding out, thinking about ordering 4 or 5, now would be a great time to do it. You have until Sunday, April 3rd, but you can order as many as you want. We thank Adorama Picks for their support. One of the nice things about having sponsors that stick around and come and go, or come back, I should say, is that I can talk about people who have used them and then write to me and say, "Oh, I got some prints from Adorama Picks the other day. I love them. They're fantastic." I just hear that again and again and again from people that use the different sponsors, and of course Adorama Picks as well. And it feels good. It feels good to have sponsors. Well, I wouldn't take sponsors that I don't like, but it feels good to have a sponsor that I use already and would recommend already. So, thank you. Thank Adorama Picks. Now we move into the section we call news. And now we need a little doot, 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 because I can do whatever I want on this show now. It's all mine. But probably most of the things I want to do aren't that great idea. Christina had all the good ideas. Instagram's going algorithmic. We talked about that last week. Your responses were a firm, ugh, yuck. I don't want that. I don't want Instagram deciding what I see based on their algorithm. Their likes, other things I've liked, similar to what Facebook does. Now, there is a change.org petition going on right now. You can sign this. This will be in the show notes. It asks to keep Instagram chronological. It says, the order of photos and videos in your feed will be based on the likelihood you'll be interested in the content, your relationship with the person posting, and the timeliness of the post. As we begin, we're focusing on optimizing the order. All the posts will still be there, just in a different order. That was what they said the other week. You know, I think it's important to stress that as we begin, we're focused on optimizing the order. All the posts will be there. So as we begin, we know what's coming down the road. What's coming down the road is they just show us what they want to show us, and we don't get to see everybody's. So is this something the community really wants, this petition says. After what happened when Facebook switched to algorithm-based feeds, it's certainly not something that small businesses will want. I talked about this last week. I know other wedding photographers that I'm part of those groups. As of about a year, January 2015, I saw a precipitous drop in the engagement rate of my posts. And I did not change what I was posting. And my weekly number of people that have liked my page is still increasing. But the engagement there dropped drastically because Facebook said, I don't think Bob, Sue, Joe, Fred, they don't want to see your post unless you pay us. And so, those kind of things are coming. And yes, they're a business, but it's really frustrating. I don't know how worked up to get. It is just the service. It is free. But when somebody starts a service one way, it's nice for us to have the option to continue using that service that way. And that's kind of what this petition is asking for. It says, if you do not want your feed to be presented in an order that you don't have any control over, or would prefer to have it presented in the current chronological format, or at least have the choice to sort your feed the way you want, please sign the petition so that Instagram can take our feedback on board. Currently has 210,000 supporters. It needs to reach 300,000. The poll question, which I hope is floating in the corner, is, do you think, I believe this is going to get to 300,000. Do you think Instagram will respond in any way? I'm curious. Yes or no? Put that in the poll, and I will tell you my thoughts a little bit later. Okay. Now, moving on. We got a story from Petapixel about the IRIX. This is, I've got it already open right here. This is coming an ultra-wide lens for Canon, Nikon, and Pentax. It's going to be a 15mm f2.4 lens, and I have to say, it's pretty sexy looking. So this is TH Swiss has announced a new line. I don't know this company, never heard of them before. It kind of reminds me of the Venus Optics company, which came out of nowhere and started producing decent lenses. These look like a step above that. The first lens in this line is going to be the IRIX 15, an f2.4 lens, quote-unquote, photographer's dream lens that was, quote, built by engineers, perfected by designers. It's a couple nice features that I really like here. It's going to have a focus lock feature that allows the focus ring to be locked in any position, ensuring that your chosen setting for the shot doesn't get unintentionally changed. There's a hyperfocal distance scale on the lens that provides depth of field, and when setting the focus ring to infinity, there's a click that occurs. That right there says to me, this is an amazing starry night sky lens option. The infinity click helps you set the focus without having to look at the lens. Did I say that right? It's ultra wide, but it's got a front filter mount and a rear gelatin filter slot for screwing 95mm filters on one end, the front, or dropping a gelatin filter in on the back. And it is optimized for 50+ megapixel sensors, reduced ghosting, coating that it's weather sealed, and it's going to come in two versions, a Blackstone and Firefly. This seems kind of similar to the Sigma line of the 150 to 600 versus the other 150 to the Sport versus the Contemporary. In this case, though, they're quite, well, I guess they're different in the Sigma too as far as weight goes. Blackstone is going to weigh 1.5 pounds. The Firefly is going to weigh 1.28 pounds and be much more kind of like plasticky. Is that right? And the other one's going to be magnesium alloy. They look, as I said, pretty nifty, and I believe they're manual focus. Did it ever confirm that? Price, most important thing, is reported, not sure yet, but there's a report that it's going to be $600 for the cheaper material one Firefly and $780 for the Blackstone. Is this lens interesting to you? I have to say, I'm really interested in it. It is a faster lens than the Rokinon, which I just tested recently, although that is an extremely budget-friendly lens. But this looks pretty nice, and it has some nice features to it. I really like that we're getting third-party lens options that seem to offer some nice features that we don't get from the main manufacturers. So thank you, IRIX, and hopefully we'll have some hands-on with that sometime in the near future. Next article we're going to talk about is what I teased at the beginning and what many of you might be waiting to hear more about. And this is DP Review's report that the 80D breaks new ground for the low ISO dynamic range. So let's break this down for a second. Up until now, Canon has been kind of poo-pooed. They've been a generation or two behind Sony and Nikon in the ability of the sensors to bring up the shadows without noise. I was just kind of gushing about the Sony sensor a little bit ago. That's one of the things you can really do. Bring that into Lightroom, a RAW file, not a JPEG, a RAW file into Lightroom, and you can really raise the shadows or boost the overall exposure without getting noise in those darker areas or without getting a lot of noise. It's quite amazing and it's really nice. In real world shooting, if you go out with like the Canon 5D Mark III and the Sony, and you're just shooting JPEG or RAW, and you look at them straight out of the camera, their dynamic ranges are very similar. It's not until so all of this hubbub about the difference is not until you start post-processing, which most of us more serious photographers are doing anyway. But I do want to make that distinction. So, and typically, even at the low ISOs, Canon has not been great lately. So even at ISO 100, 200, you boost those shadows and very quickly you start to see noise. Well, they've made some comparisons against the 70D with their 80D. And you can see here on this thing, and I did a little article about this and it'll be linked in the show notes as well, a clear difference between the amount of noise on the left, the 80D, and on the right. Now that is a 5-stop boost, so that's an extreme boost, but it really does show a pretty big difference. Let's take it down to just a 2-stop boost. So that means you basically are bringing up the shadows 2 stops to see, and then comparing the amount of noise between the 80D and the 70D. And even at the 2-stop level, it's noticeably different. So this is great. This is a nice step forward. The 80D with that additional autofocus system looks great. And I was talking with the Sigma guys today. They've got their teleconverter and their 150 to 600. The teleconverter lies to the camera so that it continues to AF for you out at those higher apertures. So that's pretty cool as well. It's slightly related to this because the 80D offers that now. So this is great. However, before we get super excited, DP Review says still not quite matching of the Nikon D7200. Now the D7200 came out a year ago. So while this is a great step forward for for Canon, it's nothing amazing. And it's still behind the competition. But then at the same time, the D7200 doesn't offer that amazing dual pixel autofocus. It doesn't offer that better AF system for the teleconverters. So it really depends on what you're looking for, and I don't want people to get all hung up on the noise and the dynamic range. But it would be nice if they just took the lead again for a little while. They used to have it. Will they ever get it back? I should make that another poll question. Will Canon ever get it back? And not in the show notes, but since we're talking a bunch about Canon, it does, I think I said this last week too though, it does look more and more likely that the 5D Mark IV is going to have 4K, and not only that, but good video features as well. Funny enough, somebody commented on that video and was like, this is a stills camera, why are you all talking about 4K? Who still says that, person? Who still says that? Yes, I know, there are a lot of people that are photographing with the 5D Mark III, but there are a ton of videographers. And there are going to be a ton more who are interested in the 5D Mark IV. So don't say that about any of these cameras anymore unless it doesn't shoot video at all, because they're not just stills camera. Brief news story. 500 Pics, the place that I like sharing my bestest work, has cut royalty rates from 70% to 30% for non-exclusive photos. Basically, if you're selling a photo through them and only through them, you're going to get, I think it's down to a 60% cut now, but it used to be, sorry, what am I saying here? From 70 to 30 for non-exclusive photos. So right, okay, so if you are selling a photo through them that you're also selling at other places, you now will only get 30% of that sale. If it is exclusive, I think somewhere it says here, 60%. So that's good. So you got to be all in or not. And this kind of brings me back to that question last week. Somebody asked, where should I sell my work, or how do I get started selling my work? And we talked back and forth a lot about stock photos and all of the different things. And the truth is, it is very difficult in places like 500 Pics, who need to also make money and maybe feel a little greedy, make it even more difficult, because any place where there's a lot of eyeballs, they're going to give themselves a pretty good cut, because the people are coming there because there's lots of options. So if your work is there, it could be seen by more, but at the same time, that company's going to take a larger cut. So one of the things about hosting this myself is I never get to sit over and look at the chat. Thank you, chat people that are in there. Remember, if you have any particularly salient points that you want to make mentioning, or you want to mention about the show, that the news stories that are being talked about, the chat is wonderful to discuss, but at the end of the show, that all disappears forever. Actually, it goes into this little weird place where I can copy it out, but never mind. So you should take a moment to leave a chat down below at the end of the show when that's available to you. All right, I think our next story is this photographer shot skiers in front of a total solar eclipse. So there was that solar eclipse back in March. It is still March, a few days ago. And he's got a crazy, Ruben Crabe had a crazy and ambitious idea. He wanted to photograph skiers in front of the eclipse at the edge of the Earth. So he traveled up to Svalbard in Norwegian Islands. It was cold, 40 below Celsius. They spent about 45 minutes on snowmobiles trying to find the best location, and they sketched it out. He shot with an 850 millimeter lens. Now, I've been talking a little bit about the moon. I shot a moon picture the other night last night with a 200 millimeter lens. The moon really doesn't get exciting in size until you are talking about at least 400, I think, and or crop as much as you can as well. Now, this is the sun, which is bigger than the moon, but you can see there they had a 500 millimeter lens. The athlete was a kilometer, that's actually a mile, so 1.5 kilometers is just about a mile, isn't it? And I don't know why we're looking at sketches. Where's the actual picture? There is the one shot taken during the total solar eclipse, and there's a 30-minute long film about it. So seriously, this is the one shot they got? It's neat, but was it worth all of that? I don't know. Depends on how much frostbite they got. Let's take a look at the 9 winning photos from the 2015 Smithsonian Photo Contest. The grand prize winner is this one of this volcanic ash rolling down the hill from a eruption, I think in Indonesia. Sumatra, yep. It's just the tones in here. I don't believe it's a black and white image, but you know, because it's so ashy, the tones are amazing and it's beautiful. I love it. Reader's Choice, Orient Express. Alice Van Kempen has this project she's working on that is called Leave Only Paw Prints, Urbex Adventures with My Bull Terrier, Claire. So there's Claire sitting on this old abandoned train station. I like that they note on all of these if there's any kind of alteration made. In this case, it's an HDR composed of 3 different images. I think that's how we're getting some of the nice light back here, and the windows aren't blown out as well. It's a cool image. I like that. The American Experience. Now, there's a theme here. There's a couple of these I feel like you're kind of getting a glimpse into somebody's world literally through a window, which is always can be interesting. It works as a very nice framing device to draw the attention of the viewer right to whatever you're photographing, even though it might only occupy a small amount of the screen, like in this case. So this is about a trucker chapel. There's a bunch of them around the world, apparently, around the US. Then we've got Little Monkey on a Cliff. This little monkey is about as cute as little monkeys can get, and it's just kind of a cute angle looking down with the snowflakes falling. It's very nice. The travel one is cool. I really like the light in here. It almost looks like it's been lit inside. I don't know if that's from a skylight or what, but you look outside and it feels very dark and grungy. I don't know if they're going through a train station, so the natural light is blocked or what, but the difference there between motion and light makes this a really strong image, and I think it's fantastic. That's just another interesting one. And here's another one of those window ones where, again, you are glimpsing a person's world or person's tired. And then, we got 2 more, I think. Synchronous fireflies. So this one is another one that's altered several long exposures over several minutes and merged them together to preserve detail and clarity. Now I think it was when, I don't remember what camera it came out, or maybe it's not even a camera that's been out yet, but Canon used some fireflies to kind of advertise one of their low light sensors. Does anybody remember what that was? Put that in the chat room. And this is really cool. I've tried to photograph lightning bugs a couple of times. I never found a spot where they're dense enough to get really exciting. I guess one of the ways to work around that is to take multiple images and stack them so that you get all of the different little fireflies together. And this is taken, doesn't say what mobile device it was taken with, but the shadows here and the single person, the symmetry, whew, that's a great shot, a lot of fun. And the light is just perfect. So the 2016 contest is open for submissions. So it would be awesome if somebody that I knew won, or at least enter. Go put your work in there. Not all of these images are anything fantastic or amazing, but many of them are capturing a moment, some place, some time that means something, and that has a lot of power in it as well. So let's talk a little bit about Google Photos, because this week Google announced that their albums got smarter. Now, I haven't quite figured out what that means. What they're saying is it will find your best shots. Now, it kind of does that already. How many people out there are using Google Photos? I'm curious. I do put most of my photos up there. I have both of my phones to automatically back up to Google Photos. And they have the story feature. It sounds like they're kind of merging the story feature and the album feature together. And let me bring up, let's see, it's not that. Here it is. So, it's smarter photo albums without the work, says Google. Starting today, Google Photos will suggest new albums for you. Now, in the past, it has suggested stories for me. It said, I've created a story for you of your weekend travel. And you could also create an album separately. And these albums, now let's go look. We're going to just jump over to my photos. So I've got some random photos here, and I can go into my albums. And I've got my Florida 2016 album. And now what has changed is I can come up here and edit this album, and we've got 3 new buttons. I can add photos. You could do that before. I can add text to something, so that, I'll show you. It puts it on this part of the screen. So we'll start with, like, we started at Universal Studios. And there it is, and I can drag it around and drop it someplace else, I think. And so see, it kind of tries to be helpful in where it puts it. You can still caption an individual picture, I believe, but maybe not in this mode. Now, the other thing you can do is add locations. So you can click location, and it's smart enough to look at the location embedded in the pictures. Now, I did geotag many of these. Some of these are from my smartphone, so they're automatically geotagged. And I could say, you know, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and where'd that go? Somewhere in here that is supposed to have happened. The other thing, let's try it one more time. Works good, doesn't it? The other thing that's supposed to have happened, or that you can do, is add a map. And now this seems very much like the story mode, which automatically added this. So I could say, you know, we started in Orlando and we finished the trip in the Everglades National Park, and I can save. And so that should have added a map somewhere. Earlier tonight I was playing with this, and so you can see that you have this. What I want, I still haven't found a great service for this. I want to see on a map my photos with little pins and the route we took. Google has all of this information about me. I have my map location history turned on. It is constantly checking. I can go to the history and see exactly what road I was on at 3 p.m. 2 weeks ago, as long as I had a GPS signal. Why can't they combine that information? Are they scared they're going to creep people out? That might be part of it. But I want that. I'm already letting them collect that. Why not use it to benefit and have a nice little line of where I went and the pictures that I've geotagged, either through automatically on the phone or taking the time to do it in Lightroom, show up on the map. So I'm a little grumpy that they're making a big deal about these albums being smarter. when they don't really seem like they've added much other than so you can put in text in between pictures now or whatever else. So if I click done on this, I wanted to show you the captions. So see, the caption doesn't even show up until you click info, and then I've got Henry eating his royal Cinnabon. So, and see, it's geotagged here, and it says what I took it with and all of that stuff, but why can't that stuff show up better? So, a nice step forward. Ooh, sorry, the metal print just fell down. A nice step forward, but come on. Now, related to this, well, one of the other things that I love about Google Photos, I'll just show you real quick, and that is the smart search. So, let's say I search for sheep, and automatically, even if I haven't tagged images as sheep, it should find them. That is cool, but what is pretty neat is Adobe has now added that to their web preview. So we're talking for a moment about Photos, Google Photos, and I want to talk a little bit about the announcement from Adobe last Friday of their smarter search. So if you've sunk a collection from your Lightroom, mobile or your desktop, it will appear here on the web. And let me close that. And now when you're in the web, you can go into this technology previews, and the only option they have right now is the ability to add search. And so I've clicked that and it's now added. So I can come in here and I can do a search for city. And it should be using, what I believe is it is using similar technology to Google in image recognition. It's trying to recognize, so I haven't tagged any of these images city, but it knows from the content, maybe the geolocation, I don't know all of the factors it's putting together, and puts them all in here and shows you them. There is a little disclaimer at the bottom that says, you know, is this everything you were looking, ooh, there's a lot for city, 127 photos. Did I find what I was looking for? I'll say yes. I thought somewhere it says, oh, maybe it's done. Earlier it told me that it might not find everything because it hadn't finished indexing my what I've sunk. But now it has. And these are also technology previews, so these don't count against your fairly small Lightroom web catalog size or web size. So that's pretty nice. I do wish, though, that you didn't have to sync individual collections and that you could say, keep all my photos up here sunk. Other things you can do with these images, you can rate them, you can flag them, you should be able to caption title and caption as well, and I don't think you can move the geotag, no, but it does show you that, and of course download as well. So that's all available to you, and, oh wait, sorry, you can edit in the web also. I wouldn't, spend a lot of time editing on the web, but it's certainly nice to be able to do that. And this is why I would love for it kind of be a non-think, automatically the solution. As you import these photos, these smaller technology previews get uploaded to the web, and so then you can, work on them from anywhere at all. It's pretty handy. It's pretty nice. And I think, as we move forward, these web tools are going to get more and more robust. It's pretty amazing how far they've come already. When's the last time that I've used Word? Never. I mean, not never. It's been years because Google Docs does an awesome job. At some point in the future, I think I'll say the same thing. When's the last time that I used the desktop version of Lightroom? Because the web version is robust enough. Might be a while, but maybe not that long. All right, and we got a couple other news stories that I skipped over. They'll be linked down in the show notes. Now we move into, we got to remember to put that photos from space sound in there, because this is part of the show where we share a photo from space or of space or slightly related to space. And Roy joked that, without that astronaut that was up for a year and who was prolific at photographing, he's down back on Earth now and even retiring from NASA. Without him, it's a little harder to find pictures, but that's actually not true. There are tons. So this I saw on Mashable today, and it is the first capture of, I think, Aurora Borealis, or I guess we should just call them auroras, on Jupiter from the, what do you call it? The magnetic interference from the sun, or the solar wind. So pretty amazing. North Pole and South Pole of Jupiter, all glowy, glowy purple from these. And these were captured from Chandra, which is one of those satellites up there that has a pretty cool imaging camera, and then overlaid on a Hubble Space Telescope optical image. So it's a composite of two different devices, but they've put it in there, and that's pretty cool. So that's our photos from space. Now we talk about Instagram challenge. One of the things that I did differently this week is I made a little video announcing the Instagram challenge and giving you a little bit more information, because free lensing is, I don't call it tricky. It is certainly tricky to do, but the idea, without having somebody demonstrate it, can be a little daunting. Simply was taking your lens off your camera and then holding it very close, and you can get kind of a fun effect. I had a commenter say, well, this seems very similar to Lens Baby or Tilt Shift Lens. Yes, it is the poor person's version exactly of that. One thing that I hope you noticed or got out of this, if you didn't watch my video, is that you can actually get some pretty amazing macro shots with some lenses just by moving them away, because that's what extension tubes do. It moves the end and it just enlarges the projection from the rear of the lens onto the sensor. And they're going to have some interesting quality to them. You can get a lot of light leaks, as Roy mentioned, and they're just a lot of fun. So I did that. We didn't have a ton of participation, I think because the idea of it is a little bit daunting. But we had, hang on, where'd it go? Here we go. We had some fantastic entries. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to run through a bunch of different entries that I think are great. Then I'll show you the ones I picked as winners and honorable mentions, and the Patreon group picked a winner as well. So we just had 54 posts. What I was looking for as I was going through were ones that, because there are some that are cool images, but they don't have a feeling that your depth of field is funky, or that you have any of the light leaks. They look like they might have just been shot with a shallow depth of field. You can feel that it's very perpendicular to the front of the camera. Or is that parallel? Your field, yeah, perpendicular. Like this one is a good example. I think this is a great image. It could be tilt shift, but it feels to me like your focus moves from the front to the back pretty straightforwardly. But I do like the story here. I like the colors. Somebody's holding out this cute little thing. So Aiden, that's a nice shot, but it didn't have a great tilt shift feel to me. There were lots of them with the light leaks that I think are great. I have no idea what this is. Anybody know what we're looking? Oh, they're cookies. There are those kind of chocolate covered cookies in there. Very nice, Neil Livingston. Now I'm hungry, thank you. I like the tones and the colors in this one, but her face just throws me. But there is a lot to like in this image. I feel like that should be in one of the other honorable mentions. These, we'll come back to those. So just some really nice shots, and then we get down here. I don't know, none of these look like free lensing to me. So let's run through some ones that really caught my eye and I really liked. The tone here is lovely. Willoughby submitted 2 of them. This is the other one that Willoughby submitted, and I think I like this one better because it's a little bit more consistent in exposure over the course of the image. And this one, that bright highlight catches my attention more than I would like. Another thing, I don't think you could crop because I don't want to lose the top of this. So I love the colors in here. I just don't love how bright we get up there. But this one, lovely. David, where did it say? Oh, yes, it's David there. Dr. Evil Smeagol, this cup one. Really, really nice. It feels to me like your focus is not perpendicular to the camera. It feels like it's at an angle. I really like that. And Luke's got these pipes, which also has a nice feel to it. Again, a little bit of light leak and that kind of purple magenta flowing in. I wish there was a little bit more spacing above this. I tell you though, free lensing, I don't know if you probably were, as frustrated as I was because you see the shot you want, but you'd shift the camera a little bit or the lens a little bit. It's very difficult to get exactly what you wanted. It's tricky. Glenn's got a nice one of some old front of some like Rolleiflex type camera, which is pretty cool. The black and white style is an interesting way to go. I like that as well. There's Aiden's I already mentioned. Jay Burnt Photography. Really lovely tones in here. So again, in this one I don't see a lot of that kind of like change of focal point, but we've got the light leak and the soft tone just works so nicely with the color of those flowers. Willoughby again? No, we don't need that again. Here's Benny's. I love the green. I mean, it's crazy. I'm not sure that there's anything exactly in focus in here, but the tone of the green here matching with this kind of green right behind the bird, and it's in focus enough. I just like it. It's a messy, likable photo in my opinion. Just Lay 87, another one that I think is pretty cool. It's got some light leaking in, and look at the bokeh back here is doing some kind of funny things. I don't think that's a branch, but I just like how that works right there. Mectassi, or Mechtassi. This is really cool. I really like the abstract, but still you can tell we're looking at flower petals. It's a wonderful image. And Anne's portrait of, I think, her brother is great as well. It would be nice if we're a little sharper here, but that's pretty minor. You know, there weren't a lot of tilt shift of people, probably because it's hard to find people to sit still and try to get them a shot at the same time. But I think you've done a nice job here. I like the direction he's looking and his kind of his facial expression. I think this is a really nice shot, and the black and white also works very well for that. Now, if we minimize this and we bring up, nope, the one we were just on. Here we go. The Patreon group voted, and Willoughby IM's shot right here was the winner of the Patreon group. So thank you for them to pick that winner, and thank you for Willoughby submitting. Now, oh, did I skip forward? I have David in here twice. David is my winner that I picked as my winner. Again, just the focus and the focus fall off here with that handle, still visible but very soft. The angle, the light, I really like this image a lot. This is a fantastic image. It very much feels like a tilt shift, and I like it. Jay Bernts, I already said, that tone and those mixing with the flowers just works very, very nicely. And Anne's brother. All very nice images. I love them. Thank you to everybody who submitted. It's so much fun to put these challenges out there, to see you all participate and what you come up with during the week. I check in on the hashtag multiple times during the week. It's a lot of fun. So, you know, I started the show with some sad news, and I was thinking I need something to cheer me up a little bit. I was thinking something cute, and then I was like, I don't know what people will do with a cute hashtag. I don't want to go there. So I looked at synonyms for cute, and what I settled on for next week's Instagram challenge is endearing. So find me subjects that are endearing. That's PRTV_endearing. If you've never participated in the challenge before, please do. I'm going to be showcasing more of your images in the future, not just the honorable mentions and the winners. So take some time and participate. It is a great way to pick up more Instagram followers and also just to kind of have a purpose, have a reason. All you have to do to participate is take a shot. And it can be with your mobile device. People asked about that. Last week's free lensing, yeah, I know, not very possible really with a mobile device, but endearing certainly is. So any device, mobile, camera, take a shot, upload it to your Instagram account, and tag it PRTV_endearing. And I look forward to being uplifted by your endearing shots next week. I hope there's some cute animals. They're endearing. But it's much broader than that. So lots of other things that you can bring in there as well. Whew. I don't think I'll do this show solo much because it's not fun to be the only person talking. I get tired of hearing myself, so I can kind of imagine how you all feel out there. So let's move on to talk a little bit about your photography questions. I actually only see one at the moment. And that is, so if you have a photography question you would like to hear me answer live for the next couple of minutes, I will be answering those live. You want to throw it in the chat, and Roy is going to post it over here. Rowan wants to know, how bad is the quality of the picture if you use old film lenses on a modern full-frame DSLR? The cop-out answer, but it's the answer, is it depends. There are some fantastically sharp film or older manual style lenses that are out there that will work very nicely and give you great results. There are also lots and lots of crappy lenses. This is a similar question to I get a similar question once a week or so of my father just passed down to me a bunch of old manual lenses, and they'll list them all out, and they're usually different Minolta lenses or some other kind of Japanese knockoffs, and they're like, I'm so excited to have all of these lenses now. But what they don't realize is they're all manual focus. They are manual aperture, and sometimes some lenses that aren't that old don't have manual aperture control on them. You're going to need an adapter, and many of them are quite cheap, and over time that glass has either gotten a little foggy or a little moldy, and those could be great for competitions like free lensing, but in general, when you're trying to get the best, sharpest shots, they're not so good. So, it really depends. You should look at what you want to accomplish with this lens. It can be a lot of fun, especially if you can get your hands on them for free. They can be also a lot of fun for video as well, not just photos, because you have that manual aperture control on many of them, which is a nice thing to have. But in a lot of cases, the results are not going to be as good as today's lenses. I mean, there are even modern lenses that aren't holding up well on these 50 megapixel, 42 megapixel sensors. So especially the older lenses. Film did not resolve at anywhere near the detail that we're getting now. It's not to say film is bad. It has different wonderful qualities. But when you're talking about absolute resolution, these new digital sensors are noticeably better. Does the 80D have a built-in intervalometer or only time-lapse video? I suspect, I haven't looked carefully yet, but I suspect that it's going to be the same system that's in the 5DS and R, and that does allow you to say, I want a video out of this, or I want still images. So you have that option, and it's good. It's a nice system, and I'm so thankful that that's in there as well. That was from Rebecca. Coffee Bean wants to know if I'll be doing any new videos about using Magic Lantern. That's my 6 favorite features of Magic Lantern. It was one of my most popular videos in quite some time. I probably will revisit that at some point. Let me know what exactly you're interested in. Somebody was asking about raw video the other day on the 70D. And, a lot of times you hear about these very exciting features like raw video, and the practicality of using it, shooting with it, editing it, in that case, is, for most people, not worth it. The amount of time you can actually shoot, the post-processing you have to do, the amount of files. But again, if you have time and you want to kind of play around with this, it can be neat. So Coffee Bean, I'm definitely not ruling it out, but I don't have anything on my list that's very exciting yet. Greg wants to know, how have I found the Sony a6300? I think last week and the week before I talked about this. I haven't published my review yet. I haven't recorded it yet. I get my hands back on a6300 on tomorrow. And I think I'm going to shoot some B-roll and then finish that whole review. In short, at that price point, it is the best hybrid camera you can buy. Excellent photo quality, excellent video quality, and impressive autofocus. There's nothing that beats it, and even really comes close to it if it's important to you to have both of these functions and have them do well. There are certainly other options that if you, like the GH4, I keep coming back to how fantastic of a camera the GH4 is. And in some situations, that would be my pick over the Sony. I also am starting to hear some overheating issues as well. It's one of those things I haven't figured out how blown out of proportion it is yet. That's kind of why I'm waiting for my review unit to come back in so that I can really test that. I didn't have any overheating problems with it when I was in Miami and had hands-on. But I also did not stress test it much. So, it's a nice camera. And I stand by that statement. It is the best hybrid camera you can buy. That'll be the first thing I say, or one of the first things I say in the review. But does that mean it's the perfect camera for you? I don't know. Bam33 wants to know, what's the best inexpensive lens? It's good for walking around doing landscape photography. Well, I've got a video about why I think you should buy the kit lens with most cameras. And that is because it is a great walk around, convenient focal length, decent landscape lens. If you don't want that, you really have to spend a good bit of money to get anything that's significantly better. The Sigma 17-70 is pretty decent and gives you a little bit wider and a little bit longer than if we're comparing it to something like the 18-55. The 24-70 f4 from Canon is quite good, and its price has come down to a much more reasonable level than when it was first released. And that's all that I think I'm going to say right now. I came late. Any idea of a tutorial for ND filters? Well, I will be talking about using these in the review some. What do I think about the latest mirrorless Sigma camera? I have not had a chance to try that. I said this last week. I have to make. I don't want this channel to be all reviews. It's fun to like play with all these different toys. It's not really fun to make reviews of them, and it's not a good use of my time. And I don't think you all want just reviews. So I have to make decisions. And with Sigma having such a ridiculously tiny market share of their cameras, it doesn't feel like it's really worth my time. But who knows? I've got a good contact at Sigma. I've got some exciting stuff coming. Maybe I will give it a shot at least and give you your thoughts. What are my thoughts on Lightroom plugins? Worthwhile or move to Photoshop? This is from Timothy. I don't know. I have plugins in Lightroom, not a ton. I like them very much. I stay in Lightroom as much as possible. I don't like moving to Photoshop unless I have to. I usually move to Photoshop when I have to do serious clone repair, or what else? That's really it. There are other reasons other people move to Photoshop from Lightroom, but for me, that's really it. Some of my images I've posted on Instagram in the recent weeks, I've been using the Nik filters, so I step over to them for a minute, but back to Lightroom. I would say if you find a plugin that does what you need, and it allows you to stay within Lightroom, that workflow is going to be faster and more efficient than popping over to Photoshop and popping back. Not that it's that much slower than using a plugin, but it is another program opening and saving. I think that is a good number of questions to answer. Now we're going to move on to the after show. So this is the part of the show where if you're watching live, you get to continue watching along. It's where I chit-chat, open up a little bit more, maybe cry on a shoulder or two, but more importantly, critique your critique your photos if you are a Patreon supporter. So let me talk about that for just a minute. I regularly get asked to critique photos. People tag me on Instagram and they send me stuff, they post stuff on Facebook, and the answer, if you want critiques from me, is to become a Patreon supporter. And at the $5 a month level, you get to submit each week a couple of photos, and I will take some time to give you some thoughts on some feedback on it, what I think you could do to make it better, maybe some changes in Lightroom or some changes you could have made while you were taking. This is very helpful in becoming a better photographer. You can also get personal critiques by me at the higher levels where you can just send them directly to me and I'll write nice outlines for you and things like that. So if you're not already a supporter, you should think about becoming one. Those Patreon supporter folks are awesome. So not only do you get those critiques, but you get a host of other things like access to the Lightroom videos. You get access to the support group, which this week has been a support group for me. Thank you all. And what else? There's other things in there as well. The Lightroom videos themselves are fantastic. They are an awesome resource for taking your knowledge to the next level. All right. So if you want to be a supporter, you can visit and learn more at photorec.tv/support. I'm going to say goodbye, good night. I'll see you live folks and Patreon supporters in the after show in just a minute. Thanks.